Hello everyone. Every page tells a new story. Welcome to the world of endless animation. Our movie today starts with a squirrel named Surly, who begins talking and introducing himself more, saying that the most important thing in his life is food. He also introduces us to his friend, a rat named Buddy, saying he is his best friend and that he is mute. At this time, Surly and Buddy notice a nut cart nearby and get very excited, deciding to steal it. Meanwhile, we go to the city park, where we see the leader of the animals, named Raccoon, who is taking food from the animals and storing it in the tree as they prepare for hibernation. Suddenly, a bird informs Raccoon that it's seen a cart with nuts, and Raccoon decides to send Andy to steal the nuts from the cart. He also informs her that a squirrel named Grayson will go with her to help. We notice that Grayson is a very arrogant and conceited squirrel. Before they set off, Raccoon warns them about Surly because he causes a lot of trouble. We then go to the owner of the nut cart and see him and his friend watching the bank, planning to rob it. At this time, a little girl comes and asks the cart owner for nuts. He tells her they're closed and stuffs her mouth with nuts, making her very upset, and she leaves. Meanwhile, we see Surly watching the nut cart and explaining his plan to Buddy to steal the nuts from the cart. Coincidentally, they notice Andy and Grayson coming to steal the cart as well, so they decide to rush to steal it before them. At this time, the little girl brings a policeman to the cart owner because he treated her violently. When Andy sees Buddy trying to sneak into the cart, she climbs the tree and goes to Surly, accidentally dropping the bucket he was going to use for his plan. Surly gets annoyed and asks her to leave because he and Buddy saw the cart first. But then Andy suggests they steal the cart together, telling him he's a smart squirrel and scolding him for not helping the animals in the park. Surly ignores her and uses one of his inventions to jump onto the tree, successfully reaching the nut cart. Suddenly, the owner's dog, named Precious, sees him and tries to catch Surly, but he tricks her into cutting the gas pipe and also disables the brakes, causing the cart to start moving. Andy jumps onto the cart, using the bucket and rope to try to stop it. The cart spins quickly, enters the park, and overturns, catching fire completely. Grayson arrives and tries to help them, but the fire reaches the gas pipe, causing the cart to speed up. Grayson tries to close the pipe and asks Surly for help, but Surly ignores him, takes a bag of nuts, and jumps off the cart. The cart continues to speed towards the tree where the animals have stored their food. Andy, Buddy, and Grayson jump off the cart, and as soon as Raccoon and the animals see the cart approaching, they quickly flee. The cart crashes into the tree, heads towards the mill, which propels it up, and it falls onto the tree. Unfortunately, the cart explodes, burning the tree completely. Raccoon and all the animals are shocked by what happened. At this time, two skunks arrive and manage to capture Surly. Andy tries to explain everything to Raccoon, while Surly laughs and mocks them because their hibernation stock has all burned. Everyone is upset with him, seeing Surly as a danger to the park, and they decide to expel him as quickly as possible. Raccoon likes this idea and decides to expel Surly from the park. As Surly leaves, Andy tries to console him, but Surly doesn't care about her words and continues on his way, asking Buddy not to follow him and leaving him behind. After a while, Surly reaches the city and we see him falling onto wires that throw him to the ground. He keeps running from place to place until he enters a side street. Meanwhile, we notice that Andy is sad for him and also very upset because their hibernation stock has been completely destroyed. At night, we see Surly sitting in a trash can, terrified when he hears a strange sound approaching. He panics and hits the source of the sound, only to be surprised that it's Buddy. He quickly goes to wake him up and hugs him, showing that Surly is very upset. He tells Buddy that the place is dangerous and leaves. As he walks, he hears another sound, thinking it's Buddy, but is terrified when he sees a group of scary street rats approaching him. Surly runs quickly, trying to escape, and climbs to the roof, but unfortunately the rats manage to corner him and want to kill him. Luckily, Buddy intervenes, throws pot at the rats, and provokes them, causing them to attack him violently. At this moment, Surly opens the pigeon cages, causing them to scatter the rats. He grabs onto a large pigeon, takes Buddy, and they escape. However, the pigeon cannot carry both of them and drops them to the ground. At this time, Surly shows that he's very upset because he's hungry and can't find any food. Suddenly, Surly gets excited and amazed when he sees that he has fallen next to a nut shop. He becomes very enthusiastic and decides to sneak into the shop, trying to enter from various places. But every time he tries, he fails and gets electrocuted. Luckily, Buddy sees a taxi stop in front of the shop and takes advantage of the two men entering the store to sneak in with them. At that moment, we discover that the group in the store is the gang planning to rob the bank. We see them welcoming their leader, who has just been released from prison. Meanwhile, Buddy goes to Surly, signals to him, and they enter from above the door, only to be shocked by the number of traps in their way. At this time, the gang leader is very pleased with the place because it's close to the bank they plan to rob. At that moment, one of the traps closes on Surly's tail, causing him to scream loudly in pain. The dog, Precious, sees him and starts barking at him. One of the gang members arrives, uses a dog whistle to silence her, but the sound annoys the gang leader's assistant. Surly witnesses this happening. Afterwards, the gang goes down to the basement to start the digging process. On the other hand, we shift to the animals in the park, and we understand that they decided to send Andy and Grayson on a trip to the city to search for food. Indeed, the two set off and cross the road, and we notice that Andy is very annoyed by Grayson's presence. Suddenly, a rat attacks her and takes her bag. Grayson chases after it, attacks it, and clings to the train. Fortunately, Grayson manages to retrieve the bag and throws it to Andy, but unfortunately, they get separated. The next day, we see Surly and Buddy after they've eaten all the cheese that was in the traps. Suddenly, Surly falls to the ground, and Precious senses his scent and starts searching for him. However, he hides from her inside the cashew machine. When Precious keeps barking at him, one of the gang members uses the whistle, but the boss's assistant gets annoyed and takes the whistle away, throwing it aside. Precious then pounces on Surly, breaking the machine, and they both get thrown out of the store. Buddy follows them and he and Surly quickly escape. Because of what happened, Surly decides to search for the whistle. He manages to find it, but he drops it and Andy takes it. Surly is surprised to see her and asks her to return the whistle, but Andy refuses. From his behavior, she deduces that he found food and that the whistle is connected to this food. While they're talking, Surly notices the gang leader entering the store and leaving the door open. He and Buddy quickly rush inside and notice a large amount of nuts in the basement. They distract Precious, sneak in, and descend the stairs, amazed by the sheer quantity of nuts. Suddenly, they hide when they hear the gang members emerging from the tunnel they're digging. They see that the gang has created an opening leading to the side street to dispose of the digging debris. Unfortunately, Precious enters the basement, spots Surly and Buddy, and chases them. They use the lift to escape through the opening, but Surly struggles to get out, and Precious is about to catch him. At that moment, Andy arrives and demands he share the food in the basement in exchange for the whistle. Desperate for the whistle, Surly agrees to give her half the food, takes the whistle, and confronts Precious, scaring her off. Precious, terrified by the sound of the whistle, promises to do whatever Surly wants. When Andy descends into the basement, she's astonished by the amount of nuts. As Buddy explores the area, he accidentally drops an explosive near the wall. Andy tells Surly that the raccoon and the animals will be thrilled with this food and hurries to inform them. By nightfall, Andy reaches them and tells them she's found enough food to last them years. She explains that they need to cooperate with Surly to steal the food. The raccoon intervenes, informing her that the beavers will accompany her to dig a tunnel and transport the food. Raccoon's assistant, Mole, reveals to everyone that they plan to deceive Surly, abandoning him once the food is stolen without giving him anything. The next day, Andy, Mole, and the beavers arrive at the store. Surly appears and shows them the digging spot, explaining that the door can't be used as it's usually locked. After some time, the beavers dig a large hole, but the wall delays their progress. Precious suddenly emerges from the basement, and Surly, surprised to find the door open, quickly shuts it without anyone noticing. Inside the basement, the beavers move the wall stones, causing a spark that ignites the nearby explosives. Surly and Buddy try to dispose of the explosives, but they explode, throwing them out of the hole. Precious, terrified, approaches Surly, fearing the gang leader will punish her for the explosion. Surly decides to help her and not abandon her. When the gang enters the basement to investigate the explosion, they find Precious holding Surly, pretending he's dead. They conclude he caused the explosion. The gang leader, enraged, orders his men to seal the hole with cement. They throw Surly into a trash bin, but he escapes and asks the beavers to dig another hole. Surly then leaves them and climbs to the roof. Andy follows him and reveals the truth, explaining that the raccoon and Mole plan to abandon him after the theft. Surly tells her that it doesn't matter to him and that he'll complete the theft and take his share. He explains that the raccoon is deceiving them all and exploiting them. Disbelieving and upset, Andy leaves. Later, the raccoon gets angry when he sees Andy distributing food to the animals. Mole tells him that Andy is the best animal he's ever seen, always helping the park animals. He also informs him that Surly has managed to control Precious, and if they continue working with him, the theft will succeed. The raccoon, annoyed, reminds Mole that he controls the animals with food, and that if the theft succeeds, the animals will have plenty of food, making them willing to obey him. The raccoon and Mole decide to sabotage the theft. Surly, sitting on the roof, hears a strange sound and sees Mole placing a water hose in the new hole. Grayson arrives, terrified but overjoyed to see Surly, hugging him and acting wildly. Mole opens the water valve to flood the beavers. Surly rushes to close the valve, but it breaks, and the beavers are about to drown. Fortunately, the water reaches their tunnel, connecting it to the gang's tunnel. Meanwhile, the raccoon's bird assistant attacks Surly. Andy intervenes, capturing the bird, but it escapes. Surly enters the store, descends into the basement, uses the lift to rescue the beavers, and tries to save them. Grayson and Precious chase Mole, while the beavers realize Grayson saved their lives. Surly captures Mole and interrogates him about sabotaging the theft, torturing him with light until Mole reveals that the raccoon ordered him to do it. And this is so he can remain in control of the animals in the park. Before Surly leaves and walks away, Mole assures him that none of the animals will believe him. Indeed, Surly goes to Andy and the beavers, who are standing on the roof, and tells them that Mole did this under Raccoon's orders. But unfortunately, none of them believe him. They even suspect that he was the one who opened the water valve, being certain that Grayson was the one who saved their lives. Even Andy is skeptical of his words and tells him that no one saw him saving them, not even Buddy, his friend, who didn't witness it. Surly gets frustrated and tells them that Buddy has lost his voice and is just a useless follower. Because of this, Buddy refuses to go with Surly and becomes very sad. Surly gets upset and decides to carry out the heist alone, going down to the basement. Unfortunately, one of the gang members sees him, locks him in a cage, and decides to kill him. But suddenly, the gang leader's girlfriend, Lana, appears, and she is shocked when she sees the hole, realizing they plan to rob the bank. At that moment, the gang leader tells her that this will be his last heist. He heads to his followers to blow up the bank from below. Lana frees Surly before leaving, and Surly grabs the bags of nuts to escape. As soon as he gets out, the rats attack him and capture him. Raccoon arrives, and we learn that he is their leader. He explains to Surly that he is doing all this to remain in control of the park. He threatens to kill Buddy, Andy, and Grayson, as they have started to break free from his control. At that moment, the gang blows up the bank, and the explosion distracts Raccoon and the rats. Surly seizes the opportunity and goes back down to the basement. Meanwhile, the gang manages to enter the bank, take all the money, and replace it with bags of nuts. We see Andy, Grayson, and their group inside the tunnel, running quickly and hiding under the money truck. When the truck reaches the leader, the gang is surprised by Andy and the beavers, who attack them. The rats also show up, chasing Surly, who jumps from place to place, trapping them in snares. Meanwhile, Andy and her group escape quickly from the area. By coincidence, they encounter Mole and Raccoon, who inform them that one of the gang's trucks contains the bags of nuts. Raccoon asks Andy, Buddy, and the others to enter that truck. As soon as they enter, Raccoon takes advantage of the situation, locks them inside, and the gang drives off with the truck. Mole decides to follow them to help, while Surly and Grayson cling to a flying toilet nearby and chase after the truck. Raccoon gets annoyed and follows them, clinging to another gang truck. When one of the gang members checks on the money, he discovers that it's bags of nuts. He realizes that the leader and his assistant tricked them. Indeed, the gang leader and his assistant had done so, and their truck is the one carrying all the money. They attempt to escape from the other gang members, who change direction and chase after them. At that moment, Raccoon's bird assistant attacks Surly and tries to kill him, but Surly uses the space to throw him away. We return to Mole and Grayson, who open the truck door for Andy and her group. But Raccoon follows them inside and grabs Surly, intending to throw him out of the truck. Grayson grabs him from the other side, pulling him back. Luckily, Mole arrives and explains to everyone present that Raccoon has been deceiving and exploiting them all along. Raccoon gets angry and throws Surly out of the truck along with a bag of nuts. Surly is relieved to see police cars heading his way. Meanwhile, Andy and her group continue chasing Raccoon, who jumps into the money truck. Andy jumps after him. At this point, the police are chasing the gang, and they manage to corner them at the bridge. Surly gets out of the police car and heads to the gang's truck. The gang leader and his assistant use the other gang members as shields, transferring the money to the nut truck. Surly goes to the truck where Andy is, finding her unconscious after Raccoon attacked her. Unfortunately, the leader's assistant had rigged the truck with explosives, sending it toward the police. But it veers off course, hangs on the bridge, and falls. Fortunately, Surly manages to grab Andy and jump out of the truck just before it explodes. The explosion causes the bridge to crack and collapse, sending Surly, Andy, and the gang's truck into the water. At that moment, all the bags of nuts float out of the truck. We then see the truck about to fall off the waterfall, but a tree trunk stops it. At this moment, the gang leader tries to retrieve the money from the truck to escape, but his assistant betrays him, attempting to burn the tree trunk. Suddenly, Raccoon emerges from the water, cornering Surly and trying to kill him. Buddy throws a bag of nuts at him, knocking him down. When Surly notices the assistant trying to cut the tree trunk, he uses a dog whistle to distract him, causing him to fall on Raccoon, sending both into the water. Unfortunately, the trunk breaks, and Raccoon reappears, grabbing Surly and attempting to drag him down. Andy, Buddy, and the others try to pull him back, but Surly lets go of the whistle and falls with Raccoon over the waterfall. The other part of the tree trunk is swept away by the water, along with the bags of nuts, heading toward the city. After a while, the water reaches the park, bringing Andy, Buddy, Grayson, and many bags of nuts. The animals rejoice at the abundance of food. As for the gang leader, the police arrest him after Lana reported him. At this moment, Precious leaves and goes to Buddy, who looks very sad. She asks him to come with her, taking him to Surly, who has also reached the park but appears dead. Both of them are deeply saddened and cry. Before leaving, they are surprised to find that Surly is still alive. They are overjoyed and hug him with happiness. Afterward, Precious bids him farewell, telling him she will wait for him at the nut shop. At this moment, Andy arrives, delighted to see him alive, hugging him. She tells him that all the animals need to know that he was the one who saved them. But Surly believes it's better for Grayson to remain the hero in their eyes, and he keeps repeating that he prefers to search for food for them. He sets off with Buddy, bidding farewell to Andy. Finally, Surly manages to save all the animals in the park, and that's after he understood the true meaning of cooperation and friendship. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.